Thank you so much for coming back to visit me this week. My name is Danelle, and this is my gathering basket, my little creative space here in Southwest Missouri. Happy December! Oh my goodness, how did it get to be that so quickly? It just seems like the year has zipped by, and looking back through what I have been working on and what I was hoping to accomplish this year, and then starting to make goals for next year. Are you doing that as well? At this point, I'm just trying to finish things up. I'm not planning on a Christmas Eve cast on this year necessarily. I like to do a New Year's Eve cast on. So I'm hoping to get some needles cleaned off. I have cleaned some needles and some bobbins up and finished some other projects around the house, and I'd like to share a few of those with you today. So, spinning. Right now it seems like most of my knitting projects have kind of been playing tricks on me. They haven't been very well behaved. So my spinning has kind of been where I have gravitated the last couple weeks. I've gotten a couple things off the bobbins, and I apologize for the lighting. It has been so weird here weather-wise. It's either so bright, everything blows out, or it's so gray, and there's been very little time in between. Right now we are hovering right about freezing. I think the temperature is going down by the hour, and later this week we're looking at another potential big snowstorm. So we are definitely wintry, which has made it very nice to stay inside. I've gotten a little bit of decorating done. I'll show you some video of that at the end. I don't do a whole lot, partly because I try to do most of it handmade, and as you know, that takes some time. So I went ahead and I've just got a couple hours before our public library closes, and I'm hoping to get this done. Editing may not be fantastic well, my editing is never fantastic. It may be a little less so than normal, and I'm going to try to buzz over there and get this uploaded so you'll have it on schedule. But what I have managed to accomplish in the last couple weeks, I got the Suffolk off of my wheel. This is a 2-ply of a down breed, the Suffolk. I was really happy with how this spun up. It was spun, I've said this before, but I used a worsted draw, and you're not going to see it real great, but it was a lot more even than I thought it might be. But interestingly enough, my yardage, probably because I did do this worsted, which tends to be a little bit heavier weight yarn, but out of, if I counted right, I only had about 230 yards all together when I finished. So this probably, it's still, that's yardage wise close to basically a worsted, but it does not look to be a worsted. So I'm not sure if I'm going to try, theoretically that's not enough yardage to really make socks with. I could probably, just because my feet are small, I could probably get it, but I may do something different. So I'm still kind of, I just pulled this off maybe 2 days ago and got it all soaked and in its skein and yardage counted and all of that. So I'm still kind of thinking. One thing that I do know I would like to try is a pattern that I heard from a couple other podcasts, and you may have seen this too. My Swedish is not up to par, so I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of this pattern. You can see it there. These have been such pretty, the podcasters I've heard or seen make these, they just look so sweet. My hitch right now, I haven't looked to see, it does take 6 double pointed needles, and I'm not sure that I have 6 of any one size. I'm not sure. So I'm going to go looking through my needle stash and see if I have anything that would be size appropriate to make a couple stars out of this. I think that would be very pretty, very, this is, let me take it out of the skein here and show you. Being a down breed, Suffolk has so much bounce. I don't know that I can really, yeah, and it's, like I said, the lighting is just blowing out, but it has so much bounce and give to it, which again would make it into, I think, some very cozy socks. I'm also thinking along the lines of I might be able to do mittens. I might go ahead and dye up part of this or spin some more and maybe do some colorwork mittens. I'm not really sure. I need to get it on the needles and make a couple swatches. I'm not sure what's come over me. I'm not usually that big of a swatcher, especially with my handspun, but I have definitely seen the value of it here lately, as you may know. But that was my Suffolk, and I'm very glad to have that part done. I think I am going to try to get some of that measured out into some little bumps or braids, and put that on my Fibercrafty shop here shortly, because I do have a couple pounds of that left beyond what I know I'm going to be able to spin up. And there's just so much other stuff that I want to be spinning too. So another finished project, I showed you the last couple of episodes. I've been showing you the mitered squares, and I have it finished into my pillow. These were all sample little bits of fiber, some of them just 4 or 5 inches of a fiber that was donated by different companies, dyers, farms, to the Playaway conference that I went to 2 years ago. And they had just kind of been sitting around, and I decided to just go ahead and basically I was just thinking I'm just going to get them out of the way, spin them for the fun of spinning them. There were some rollags in there was some cloud, different preparations. So I thought I'm just going to spin it just for the experience of spinning it. But I hate to waste stuff. So I went ahead and cast on for a couple mitered squares, and I had just enough to finish 16 blocks to make a 16-inch pillow. So I just got that put together. I think I finished, this one was my last square, that pale green there, and got that all put together and just put a linen back on it, sewed it up. However, I was so excited I was going to have a finished object to show you, and I was whipping up the back of this morning on my sewing machine, and as I turned it inside out and started to stuff the pillow in there, I realized that I had sewn the wrong side out on the pillow back. So I went ahead and just to see if it actually fit, if it was gonna work. It wants to gap just a little bit here, but I also know these pillow forms are going to compress quite a little bit as soon as I start using it. So I may not adjust that, but I do need to rip it out. Seam ripper is a sewist's best friend. Definitely mine. I need to go ahead and take out the seams and flip the thing around. I'll do that someday. Do you have a pile of someday projects? I'm just very glad to have this finished, to know that it actually is stitched up into the size, the shape that I wanted it to be. I'm very happy, and it feels really good behind my back. So that's where it's going to go for the moment. So that's another spinning project that I've finished. I am nearly finished with my homegrown cotton that I grew this year, the white, and I feel like I have been spinning for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I have just a little bit on my bobbin. That stuff provides a lot of entertainment for just a little bit of roving, especially when you're spinning it very fine to make it into, I really want like a crochet cotton kind of thing. It's going to be thicker than that. It's definitely going to be a thicker thread, but I am hoping to still squeak in a couple. I should be able to finish this spinning, and then I need to get it plied up into a 2-ply, and I'd like to go ahead and probably make like some snowflakes or stars to put on my Christmas tree. So that was my big goal this year, was to grow enough cotton, and I just squeaked it in. I didn't get a great harvest, and I can definitely tell the cotton bolls that completely matured and opened outside, and then the ones that I picked prematurely, that the fiber just isn't nearly as nice. So I have enough to make an ornament or two. That's probably about it. And then I have a lot of seeds that I can go ahead and plant and start over for next year. So I will, if I can remember, I will pop a picture either here or at the end of the cotton on the bobbin. I'm doing that on my Ashford eSpinner 3. So that one is very close. I hope I hope I have an ornament or two made for the next episode. Because if I don't, that's going to be next Christmas at this point. I went ahead and put the very first spin, I think that I told you about on my very first episode, that's a blend of Angora, wool, silk, and alpaca. And I've got 4 ounces of it. And again, I'm spinning it super, super fine. I have my little test piece here. If you can see, it is super, super fine. That's a 2-ply. So it has been a very long project. And I'm really, that's another one of my goals this year, was to get that completely done. So I have that on my Ash for Joy. It's sitting right here. I'm staring at it. It's staring at me, saying, you need to get back to me. Stop talking to other people. You need to get busy. So that's my spinning. Knitting wise, like I told you, my knitting has been playing tricks. I did manage to finish my Podster mitts. These are a gift. And I'm probably going to pop them in Noble Character Crafts. Amy has a knit along going. It's a Be My Neighbor cal that goes to the end of the year, and it is for cardigans. I was hoping to have my Anne sweater finished in time to enter that knit along. Sadly, it's in time out right now. I'm not terribly happy with the gauge is right, but when I got it to the point I had the body almost done, I was down to putting on the hem, and I was very suspicious that I was going to run out of yarn. So I went ahead and put that on hold, started a new skein of yarn and started on the sleeves. And I got about halfway through the sleeve and realized that when I tried it on for fit, it fit, but it felt very, not stiff, but getting very close to stiff. I just wasn't really satisfied with so it comes down to gauge. It's got to be that it was too tight a gauge for that yarn. Even though it is it's a looser gauge than what the pattern is written for. And so I had done some compensating for that. But if I keep going, I'm probably going to run out of yarn, or it's going to be a serious game of yarn chicken at the very least. And probably I could go ahead, because it is a longer sweater, I can make it a little bit shorter and save on some yarn there. But I don't want to run out. There's several other options using contrast for the hem and the button band and the cuff, that kind of thing. But I'm just not really sure that's the look I want. So for the moment, before I make any rash decisions, I've just kind of set it in the corner, and I'm going to think about it and see what, work on some other things and then go back to it. That's been my biggest disappointment. I really thought I should have had that done for this episode. And it's just, I want to make the right decision. But I was able to finish the Podster mitts. These are the convertible. So you have fingers, and I did not go ahead and do you can make one that's a convertible thumb that has the little top on the thumb as well. But I liked it just plain. So I have 2. They're both done and they fit me well, so I think they will fit the intended recipient. This is I believe it's either 80-20 or 75-25. I honestly don't remember. It's some yarn that I had dyed in self-striping and made 2 little matching skeins. Did this some time back. So I was very pleased with how it striped up, and also the fact that really both of them ended up matching. I wasn't sure the way that I wound the mini skeins together to do the identical dyeing. I wasn't entirely certain how well the balls matched, if they actually would come up, and they really did. I'm very pleased with how that worked out. So I'm gonna have to try some more socks with I did several of these and just haven't used them. So it's been probably 3 or 4 years since I did the dyeing on this, and finally had the nerve to use it. And I'm glad I did, and I think these are going to be, should be well used. My only critique with the pattern is on the pinky. All of these fit really well, and honestly those fingers are not near as fiddly as I always think they're going to be. It wasn't bad at all, but the pinky has just a few, it's a little tight, and I've debated taking that down and re-knitting it. I think because this is going to a younger person, I think if it fits me okay, I think it will probably be fine on her. So very happy to have, it's going to be kind of hard to send these off because I really like them. But I did have, and I thought this was amusing, when I finished, I just out of curiosity, I had a lot more yarn left than I thought I would. Because again, this was a little bit finer yarn than the pattern gauge called for. I wasn't sure how much yarn it was going to take. So that was my leftover, and then I have another one identical to it. And these were 50-gram mini skeins, or half skeins. And when I popped this on the scale, this weighed 24.9 grams. So you couldn't get any closer to half the skein. So theoretically, I could go ahead and make another pair for myself. We'll see. Not right away. And then in the blue, I think I told you last time, showed you, I had just about halfway done one of my socks. This is just Croy in the Singing the Blues stripes, I believe it is. Just a Croy yarn, and this is using the free pattern basic sock with double gusset heel, and this is by Turtle Girl 76. I'm sorry, Christy Payne. That's her free, kind of her recipe formula for doing the double gusset heel, and you can see that right here. I think I showed this last time. It's an Eye of Partridge gusset, or heel flap, sorry, and then the gusset is actually done underneath, and I think I showed that last time. This right here is actually underneath the heel, underneath your foot. So it really does a good job of pulling that foot of your sock, kind of snugging up around the arch of your foot. So I really, and this is just basically a vanilla sock. I did a 3x1 rib on the top and on the cuff, just for fun, just to have something a little different. And the last pair that I had done of the Croy, for some reason, with this stripe, and they were the teal, I believe, the teal stripe. It seemed like it was working up just a little bit looser. So I thought that doing the rib, and it was fine. I gave them to my mom, and she has worn them quite a bit already. So I thought if I did the rib, because I really wanted this pair for me, that way if it was a little bit looser, which I think this is, I'm not sure if it's a little bit, I'm not sure why, but this is, I thought that rib would help kind of snug them up and be a little bit more forgiving on fit than just a plain vanilla. So I have one done, and I finished that last night while I was watching a Christmas movie with my parents, and then I got the cuff, the cuff done of the second one. So I am ready to start on the 3x1 ribbing for the leg of the sock. So I was very proud of having that done. I've got a couple other little projects here and there. Nothing else significant enough to tell you about or show you yet. So I'll hopefully have some more new projects for the next podcast. And then what I'm wearing, this is a project I did a couple years ago, I think. Year and a half ago, maybe? I can't remember. It's on my Ravelry page. This one is called the Birchbark by Alicia Plummer, and it is one of my favorite coziest sweaters. It is made in Berroco Remix, which is a recycled yarn. So it has this great nubby texture. It does pill some. There's cotton and wool, and it's like one of these yarns that has 8% this, 12% that, but it's definitely a recycled. And this is the eggplant colorway. Again, love this. The fit on this is great. I never would have thought that I was much of a cow person. It does have this great big oversized, you could almost get it over your shoulders if you wanted to, almost. But it's great because I can, and I thought I was going to let in the cold, but I can definitely wrap it around my neck and it'll almost close like that, or I can wear it more open. And it has these fun little kind of a broken rib on the shoulders that's nice and gives it a little bit more, or I feel like it gives it a little bit more structure here. Otherwise it could really, really hang for being a seamless sweater. So I'll stand up just a little. It's just pretty much a basic little bit of an shaping, and it has kind of a little bit of a high-low to it. Nice ribbing on the cuffs that keeps it nice, and yeah, this has just been a wonderful, like almost a sweatshirt feel. So great pattern, definitely recommend it. I love all of Alicia's patterns. I've got a few more on my wish list that I'm hoping to get started. So that's what I'm wearing. And let's see, I think that's basically done. Doing a little bit, like I said, of Christmas decorating. I don't do a whole lot. We do most of our Christmas celebration at my parents', so I don't really need to decorate up a whole lot, and I'm okay with that. I think I've told you before that I was a florist for about 16 years, so I kind of figure if I take all the trees and all the decorating that I did during that 20 years, I don't really need to decorate for another 40 or 50. I've done my share, but I like doing a little bit here and there. So I have put up, and I'll try at the end. I tried to do this sitting over by my tree and the lighting was just really bad. So I thought I'd spare you that, but I may try to go ahead and put in a little bit of a clip at the end just to show you my very minimal decorating. I have a quilt that I made for my grandmother, and I will definitely pop a picture of that in. The last year that she was alive, she spent the last couple months in a rehab facility, and it was we had to transfer her there right before Christmas. So we didn't have a whole lot to decorate, and she wasn't one that went all out for decorating by any stretch, but she was a quilter. So I made a 7.5 foot Christmas tree paper pieced. It was my very first try at paper piecing. I was thrilled with the way it turned out, and the only problem was I meant for it to go on her door, and when I got all the way done and realized it was 7.5, I think the pattern gave it in inches, how many inches long it was, and it just, I don't know why I never really thought about it. I knew it was long, but I just never really thought out what that meant in feet, but it was not going to go on the door. It is much longer. So I have it hanging up now since she doesn't need it anymore. They gifted it back to me after she passed, and I enjoy putting that up every Christmas and remember my grandma. So I have that. I have a little itty bitty Christmas tree, and this year I made, and I know this has been going around, this is an old craft. I made cinnamon applesauce dough and just some cookie cutters, and I did some stars, some angels, the wreaths, and they smell so good. So the backstory on this, I had applesauce that, of course, I told you about making applesauce this year. We made quite a bit, and I had a couple jars that we found way back in the back of the cupboard from like 2016. They were fine, but I have fresh, so I thought, well, I could go ahead and use these. And then about a week or so before Thanksgiving, my mom called, and we had been to a bulk food store near us and bought some pumpkin pie spice. Just, they had, it looked good, and I know you can make your own blend, but for some reason, I was buying all new spices there that week, and they had this pumpkin pie spice. My mom called and said, hey, have you used that yet? I said, no, you're doing the baking. And she said, well, I'm pretty sure you won't like it. Apparently it had a couple different spices that they had used in the blend. That one of them was mace. I'm not a big fan of cloves, and we're pretty sure it was just, I don't mind some, but it was pretty heavy in cloves and mace. And just, she said she had done some baking with it and really didn't like it. She said, I try a little bit before you use very much if you want to. Well, I was already thinking about making these, so I just took that pumpkin pie spice, and so now I have, usually you just use cinnamon, and that was my plan. But since I had that, and yeah, it wasn't, the flavor was fine, it just wasn't my preference. So I used that pumpkin pie spice and my homemade applesauce and made some homemade ornaments. So I'm not sure if I will, you can preserve these. We are in such a humid, not as much as some places, but we do have a lot of humidity. And I can pretty much guarantee that by the end of Christmas, these are gonna start to rehydrate. So if you want to, you can go ahead and spray them with like a clear coat paint kind of thing, spray paint, and go ahead and preserve them. We did these when I was a little kid, and that was great. We also did salt dough ornaments. We usually made our own ornaments. And one year the mice found them, and they loved these. So I've always been just a little hesitant to keep them from year to year. And also, if you spray paint them with the clear coat, you don't get the fragrance. So I think I'm probably just gonna let these go, and I will probably just go ahead and put them in the compost pile at the end of Christmas and enjoy making some more next year. So those are my little potpourri ornaments. And then the other ornament, like I said, I enjoy just a tree with lights. I am fine with that. I don't go very heavy on the ornaments. But this was a craft that I did in college. We were decorating up our dorm room, and my roommate had lights, and so we put those on the top. And then, you know, the suspended ceiling that you can hang stuff from? Well, we took paper clips and made a bunch of paper ornaments. And we were going to go ahead and just make snowflakes. And then I remembered that I had this pattern. This is, there's a lot of different names for the craft. I grew up in a Pennsylvania Dutch area, so we called it Scherenschnitte, or German paper cutting. And I made a bunch of these little 3D. This one's a star and angel. And these are just basically, you take 2 sheets of paper, and they're kind of blowing out there since they're white. The little angel, and then 2 pieces of paper, cut them out identical. On some of these, because I knew they were going to be in front of lights, so I just took a little thumbtack and popped some perforation in there so the light would come through. And then, if you can see, I sewed them with just a needle and thread, and then you open them up and you have this little 3D ornament. So I have, and I think I left a bunch of them at my mom's house. I have angels, I have the star, and I think those are the ones I brought over. I also have Christmas trees, gifts, and candles, I think are the ones that I made up. So I only have a few of them. I'd like to make some more. These are, every year I think I'm probably gonna have to throw them away because they get, opening them and closing them, I like the fact that they don't break. I like the fact that I can store them all in an envelope at the end, keep them flat, and then next year I just open them back up. But with wear, I mean, these have been in continuous use every year for more than 20 years, let's say that. And given that they have held up well, I'd like to make some more. I may have to, I don't know if I have those original patterns. I may have to do some different ones. But if you've never tried it, I mean, this is, you can use cardstock. This is literally, I mean, I was a college student. It was printer paper. So you can do them with newspaper. Really inexpensive, but they have brought me years of joy. So those are, especially these, I just love that star. That's probably my favorite. So just, and then for a garland, I was going through some old hand spun and just kind of, it was at the point I need to clean this out. I don't want to throw it out, but I don't know what to do with it. Stuff that I had done in classes, things that I had done, new to me techniques that I had tried. There was one art bat that I bought from a friend of mine, beautiful art bat. I am not an art bat spinner. I've tried it several times. It makes beautiful stuff. It's just not my chosen technique. There is a week in the 51 yarns. One of the challenges is your nemesis. And that is, I was trying to write down if that's coming up in another month or two. I'm not sure exactly when that one is. It's in the future. And I thought, you know, art bat might be my nemesis. That might be one we're just not on speaking terms. But I had this bat and it was red and sparkly and it was beautiful. It had some black in it. And I spun it up and I had fun. It spun quickly. I did sort of a thick and thin and then plied it with a black sewing thread. And it was very interesting, but when it was all done, I just didn't know what to do with it. So it's been sitting around for a number of years and I brought it out and it was kind of like, okay, it's time to do something with it. And this morning I was working on my Christmas tree and trying to think of something, just what I had. I didn't want to have to go buy ornaments. I'm hoping to get some more made. I have several patterns that I've found online of different paper ornaments, folded ornaments, origami I enjoy doing. So I didn't really want to go buy things, but it was looking kind of sad, just not a whole lot on it. And I saw that red yarn and I thought, huh, okay, garland. So I skeined it out, or put it into a ball and two-plied it. It's almost like a cable ply, and it still wasn't as thick as I wanted. It didn't look all that showy on the tree. So I put it through again. So at this point it would have been several plies. I can't remember. But it was finally getting some texture, some meat to it. It was starting to show big enough on the tree, but I still wanted it to be a little bit bigger. So I took it, and I had more yards than I wanted to wrap on this. I've got a 3-foot tree. So I didn't need that much. So I took the whole thing, put it in a ball again, and just took a large, I think it was like a size P hook, crochet hook, and made a crochet chain out of it, which more than, it almost tripled the diameter of it and made for a really, and also kind of balanced it out a little bit from all that plying that I had done. So I put that on my tree also, and like I said, I'll pop a picture at the end of that, and you can see my attempt to make an all homemade Christmas tree this year. In fact, I have plans for next year to actually make a tree out of wool. So we'll see. That's going to be a long project. So I'll get started probably the end of the winter, so I have it in time for next Christmas if it works. I'm playing. I'll keep you posted. So so those are my ornaments. And then there's also every year, my grandmother got this started. We like to do amaryllis. So this year, this one's supposed to be a hot pink. This is just from the big box store. It actually has 1, 2, 3 bloom stalks. So amaryllis, if you've never played with those before, the fun part is garden is done. It's so nice to have something growing, just something that just does something to my spirit. Love having something growing that I can watch. And amaryllis, my grandmother always put a yardstick in with her amaryllis, so that from year to year, so she could watch how fast it grows, because she would say that she could hear it growing. And sometimes it seems like that they just shoot up out of this. I keep the bulbs from year to year, so I've got quite a few, and I usually get a new one just because I can't resist. And my mom has, I usually get her one too. And then we have, so how tall is yours today? And is yours blooming yet? She has a different variety this year that I bought her. So hers is sending up the leaves and hasn't started yet on the buds. But I'm enjoying watching this. I like to have some that I can watch, some that later in the winter I'll probably start forcing some early bulbs, things like jonquils, maybe tulips, hyacinth, that kind of thing. But it's just fun to have something growing. I also have a couple Christmas cactuses, again, left from ones I inherited from my grandmother. And those are all budded up again this year. They're very small, but I'm looking forward to seeing those bloom. And then I should have pointed out my co-host earlier. I'm sure you've been wondering, you ever have that feeling like somebody's staring over your shoulder? This is Lloyd the llama. This is a pattern by Elizabeth Hartman. The pattern name is Lloyd and Lola. Lloyd and Lola, it's hard to say. This is all flannel, so he is nice and cozy warm. I just got it back from the shop. I got it quilted on the long arm. I still have to bind it. I got my other quilt that I had last time. I got the binding on it. And so now I need to get this one on the machine, get the binding on it, get the hand sewing done, and it'll be ready for a gift. But I just thought maybe my fiber friends would enjoy seeing a quilted llama. And if I can, I don't know, maybe I'll put a picture at the end. I don't know if I can come up with a good way to show you if I step out of the way. He has a nice little blanket on him. He is about somewhere between about 3.5 foot tall as far as the llama. So that was a lot of fun to piece. We've had it hanging in the store most of the summer, and then I said I needed to have it quilted in time to give it as a Christmas gift. So I'm excited to have that done. I am slowly catching up with some of my projects that I had for quilting. So that's my quilting object, my sewing object for this week. I know this is a busy time of year, and I really appreciate you taking some time out to spend with me and look at my projects. And I hope maybe you'll have, do you have some extra spices that have been sitting in your cabinet for a while that you can make some applesauce cinnamon ornaments with? So much fun. And I used my dehydrator. You can make them in the stove, but I had also seen where you could do them in the dehydrator. So I thought, since I was just doing a few, rather than run the oven, I would go ahead and use my dehydrator. If I do them again, I'll probably pop them in the oven. So anyway, you don't have to have a dehydrator. It was just kind of fun to get that back out for a little bit and try those. Again, thank you so much for joining me, and I will put all my contact information at the end. Please feel free to get a hold of me. Pop me any questions you have, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Have a wonderful couple weeks, and may your basket overflow with blessings. Bye for now.